Hi, welcome to another episode of Port Charles Chat. I'm Mom.
And I'm Brandon.
Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
All right. Well, Brandon, how are you doing today?
Mom, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, Brandon. And today we are talking about the weeks of May 27th through May 30th. And just so everyone knows, the recording of this is on May 31st of 2025. All right, Brandon, are you ready to talk about the fallout of Geo?
Yes, I am.
All righty. So last week when we last left, everyone at this point knows that Geo is Brooklyn and Dante's son, and so, or at least everyone who watched the Nurses Ball knows. And so this week, the week for itself focused on Geo and all of his relatives. And so I kind of want to go over that a little bit. And then I have like four other storylines that kind of took place. They were minimal, but I want to talk about them. So let's talk a little bit about Geo, Brandon. We have Dante, Brooklyn, Ned, Tracy, Lois, and Olivia, and Lulu in there. So all of them played a factor in this in some shape or form. Many of them were just innocent people in it. And so I just kind of want to go over each of them and let's see what our thoughts are. Dante. I thought Dante had a natural reaction to finding out. Um, I thought that his conversation with Brooklyn was very nice. He did not accuse her. He seemed to be very understanding. And he was more upset by the fact that even years later, why she never told. That upset him more. But he was not in any shape or form mean or anything to Brooklyn. I thought he handled it pretty well considering. The person who he was really upset was Lulu. Once he found out that she knew part of this. Oh, and he was also upset, of course, with Lois, since Lois knew the most. But for the most part, I thought Dante took it better than expected. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely fully agree with that. And to what you were saying about Dante not necessarily being, well, he certainly is upset with the situation, but he's not per se directing it at Brooklyn. But we'll say it's an interesting contrast to just a few weeks ago when he was directing all of his anger and frustration towards Geo, and even up until last week, to some extent, right up until uh, the smashing of the violin, so to speak, and of Geo's hopes and dreams. But nevertheless, yeah, I think Dante is having a very natural reaction to that, especially in processing who knew what when.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Brooklyn also, to me, is having a natural reaction. She is genuinely shocked that it is Geo. She, like I said, she and Dante kind of had a nice conversation. I really like the conversation she had with her dad. Because I think Ned in itself, just to bring them both in at the same time, um, Ned is hurt also that he didn't know. He is not upset with Brooklyn. He's upset with Lois. But I thought he had a natural reaction. And then I kind of liked his banter with Tracy later. Um, but Brooklyn, I think, is handling it as well as can be expected. She is incredibly upset, though, with Lois. Really upset with her. And so you wonder about their relationship later. She did mention her grandmother also, and her grandmother did pop in at the last minute, which both you and I were both shocked about. And so, Geo at this point in time has not met with any of them. Geo's by himself, he's with Emma. And so we're just working with right now the reactions of everyone else who's involved. All right, Brandon, what did you think about the Brooklyn Ned and Brooklyn Dante conversations?
I thought it was definitely very appropriate. I like that we, first of all, were able to use the full extent of Ned throughout last week and this week. I think that's very appropriate. I know oftentimes we see him like in spurts, usually to make a quick remark or for pivotal scenes, but I like that we've consistently had him here and is present. I love the conversations he's having. But I thought something's interesting is that is Tracy trying to both manage the situation, but also trying to use this as a situation to banish Lois, so to speak.
Yeah, that is true. Tracy goes back and forth on who she likes, and right now it is not Lois at all. Um, I will say that when Tracy found out, I really liked her reaction. Really did. When she spoke to Geo, I thought that they did a great job of her bringing him in and explaining to him family, and with some just showing the pictures of Edward and Lila, and then talking, giving some family history along with it. And then just basically kind of calming him down because he was ready to sprint. And she included as much as she could Emma in that conversation, even though she wasn't really speaking directly to her. It was enough to keep them both there, and until she was able to bring to bring Brooklyn and Dante there. Geo didn't, of course, didn't want anything to do with them when he saw them, but at the same time she was able to bring in those reinforcements, even though there for just a moment. All right, what were your thoughts about Tracy?
I really love Tracy this week. I mean, her frustration with the situation at the very beginning, before she knew, like, for, I don't know, being thrown into jail because of Drew, and then doing the sort of quick shift to the whole Geo situation, and that, yeah, I really liked her with that, and because I think Tracy's always been a very intriguing character, especially where her loyalties lie. But she's always been about family. That's the one consistency, as long as it's not Drew. So, yeah, I really like Tracy this week, as always.
Yes. And then, of course, Lois and Olivia. Lois, everyone's upset with Lois, and I don't think there's anything else I really could say, but everyone is upset with Lois. Lois is trying to explain herself, but everyone's just really upset with her. Olivia is just hurt. She's hurt that her best friend was did not tell her the truth, and that they are both grandparents and they couldn't share in that. Of course, Lois doesn't think that Olivia understands, but Olivia does understand because she did have that child with Sonny. So she understood completely about being a teenage mother. She just chose a different path. And so, that friendship right now is not quite there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely was intrigued by the whole dynamic for that. And, Olivia calling out Lois for this when, for all intents and purposes, Olivia did the exact same thing. And that Olivia made it a big argument in regard to that these situations are nothing alike. But then Olivia used that same verbiage that Lois was trying to use and trying to comfort Brooklyn. So a part of me says that Olivia now understands a little bit as to where Lois is coming from, but whether or not they will admit that to each other is yet to be seen.
Yeah. Now, as a side note, this is just for continuity's sake. I find it interesting that everyone knew where Lois was because I couldn't figure out where Lois was, but they all found her. And so I thought it was kind of interesting that they all kind of popped in at, one right after the other, kind of confronting her. Okay. And so that was really the Geo fallout situation. Let's talk a little bit about Christina, because Alexis has decided to meet with Christina and with Lucky to kind of discuss the situation that Christina's in. And she just wants, at this point, it seems like information just in case something occurs later for law purposes. She at least wants to, in her mind, trying to see if she could kind of get some sort of defense for Christina. What were your thoughts about that situation?
I certainly thought it was interesting, and on one hand, I don't know. This is certainly an interesting situation because on one hand, we see Alexis on her with her lawyer hat on, trying to help out Christina. But on another hand, she's just Alexis is practically just as guilty in this, due to the whole conspiracies. But no, Lucky is not aware of that. So I thought it was a interesting aspect of it, but I get it. And so Alexis realizing how deep into it Christina is, not only has she been sloppy about this, with the cutting of the brakes, she was at the crime scene and told Dante, who's a detective, and they said that she'll likely be in any of the police camera videos. Um, yeah, Alexis has her work cut out for her.
Yeah, she sure does. And they're all trying to find the car. So it'll be interesting to see who'll find the car first, which I'm sure will be Christina. And I'm sure she'll do something that she's not supposed to do. But that is, that'll be interesting to see. All right. Michael and Willow. This is the other big storyline. We had Geo, we had Michael and Willow. And so, new Michael, who I like, he and Willow had a conversation about the children. Um, Michael has established that he actually does have temporary custody of the children. He has been granted this. Diane went through the court system in order to get this. So there, he is actually able to keep them at this point in time. Their court case comes up sometime next week, and so Willow came to kiss their children goodnight, or at least to try to see them. And Michael said absolutely not. And he said he would work with her if she was to break up with Drew. Willow at this time does not look like she's going to do that. Um, so, what are your thoughts about Michael and Willow?
What I thought was interesting is that Willow is being upset that Michael is somewhat doing the same thing to her that she's been doing to him, and the whole, who gets the kids, who doesn't. And but yet Willow didn't per se have a base other than that she doesn't want to be in Michael's venge or whatever, and that she's the mother, and that's just apparently all the argument that you need. Um, Whereas Michael is just like, I spoke to Wiley to Wiley, and that he's upset about when I'm coming home and when we're going back to our house. Um, and so I like that they're able to sort of draw on that, because that way we're able to have more than just we don't like Drew. We have a legitimate reason as to why Michael has changed his stance, or new Michael has changed stances. But we see Jason being the sort of voice of reason, so to speak. Is there any room for a compromise at all?
Yeah, Jason is the voice of reason, and typically he is the voice of reason. And so yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in court. Apparently, their court case for them getting a divorce is going through at this time, and they did a lot of that off screen, so we didn't see that kind of pop up. And so, I guess the big thing will really be the custody battle, which will occur, like we mentioned, sometime next week. And then we've got Ava and Nina. Nina, on the other hand, now has figured out that Michael is the father of Sasha's child. And so, with just a little detective work, she's figured this out. And so she is perplexed and does not know whether or not she needs to tell Drew, or she needs to tell anyone, the court system or whatever. And so Ava and Nina had a conversation about it. And Nina, when we left on Friday, was indicating that she was not telling anyone and that she was going to keep this to herself. Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was very amused with the whole Nina and Ava and then Rick situation, because first of all, Nina cleverly figured out the whole thing about Sasha's baby, but given that she very much appreciates and respects Sasha, she does not want to blow that secret out of the water, because it'd be unfair to Sasha. And at the same time, that she doesn't want Drew's plan to come along, even if the plan would be to help Willow. So it sounds like Nina may or may not be willing to sabotage her own daughter's custody. It means getting away from Drew, because she's confident that Michael will come around. Michael and Will come around to some compromise as long as Drew's out the picture. So I think it's interesting. The question is, will Nina commit to it? Because we ended the episode with Rick asking Nina, "Is there anything else you'd like to share?" Because I could very easily see this as a sort of quick bait and switch, where she says all of that and then immediately tells Rick the information.
Yeah, and
But
then the
yeah,
yeah, And then the other thing is, of course, Nina's been in a relationship with Drew, and so, or sort of type anyway. And Maxie brought that up, and whether or not she would tell Willow that as a way to kind of get Drew away from Willow. And so that is something also she could share with Rick. And like you said, we're just kind of left. It ended with we don't know what Nina's going to do.
Yeah, and I should point out too that while the Quartermains have figured this out a super long time ago about the whole Nina thing, is that they said that they wanted to use that information against Willow at a later time. Question is, are they going to follow through with this and Tracy and Ned use that information against Nina? And in which case, when? Because I don't know where you would throw that in unless I don't know where that would come into place.
Yeah, that is a good question. So we'll have to see, where this court case leads. And then lastly, we have Curtis and Portia. Um, I don't know. They're still fighting. so, and, Curtis knows more now about the things that Portia did do. And so the question is, how are they going to deal with this? Laura did, I think it was Laura. No, it was not Laura. Curtis did speak to, who did Curtis speak to? Nina. And the next person that we're going to talk about is Curtis and Portia. Curtis did have a conversation with Carly, and in that conversation, Carly kind of asked what Curtis whether or not he'd be willing to kind of put something in the magazine or newspaper or whatever he has to kind of show Drew in a not so nice light. And Curtis is, of course, he's stuck because he cannot, because that would hurt Portia at this time. And so he is still trying to figure out the Drew angle, along with keeping his wife in mind too, because he doesn't want to hurt her. But he's also learning more about what Portia did. And so this will be something that we'll have to see what happens with next week. What are your thoughts about Curtis and Portia?
Yeah, I think that Portia definitely put Curtis into an interesting situation that he can't go against Drew, but he said he has another plan in mind that he's going to put into fruition. And I'm very curious to see what this is. And I hope, in my thoughts, is that the show puts it into motion without telling us what it is, and that's going to be some type of big shocking reveal. That's what I'm hoping, but who really knows? But it's interesting that Curtis already has a plan to take down Drew without using the press or having his name associated to something.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens there. Brand, did I leave anything out from last week?
Are you saying that the Cayenne Trina thing wasn't important?
Well, I just kind of left that out. Y'all, if you didn't watch it, just watch. So, yeah. I comment about them later.
But I think for the most part, that is everything uh, big for this week after the nurses' ball.
Alrighty, performers of the week now. I had several performers of the week. I couldn't limit it to one or two. So anyway, Tracy kind of comes on for me first as one of the performers of the week. Geo is like right behind her. They gave actually Geo less time this week for airtime. Tracy, I think, had more airtime than Geo, but Tracy and Geo kind of tied with me. And then Dante. Dante, I think, did a wonderful job acting this week, along with Brooklyn. So that whole group, the Quartermain family, just did a great job this week. All right, Brandon, who were your performers of the week?
So I'm going to add on to that list because I fully agree with your list.
Uh huh.
So I'm going to add first Ned.
Okay, I
I
agree.
thought that we got a very raw Ned this week, and he's trying to figure this out and why he's being left out and why everyone managed to know about this before him. And I guess he and Dante are probably in the same boat for that.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
And another one I'm going to add is Emma.
Yes, Emma's doing a nice job.
And I'm going to say Wiley.
Yeah, I'll give Wiley credit. Wiley did a nice job too. So as you can see, we had a lot of performers of the week. I actually want to add a new Michael too. But yeah, so
Yes.
they all did a very nice job this week. And as for amusing scenes, out of all of them, Tracy for me is the one that stands out as having the amusing scene when she spoke to Ned. And they had their conversation about having, how there's a new person in the family. And when Ned found out that Tracy knew, he didn't get mad. He just kind of went with it because that's just what they do in the Quartermain family. And so yeah, I liked their scene together. Then the other one I liked was Laura and Liz together. They had a little scene, and it was just cutesy. I mean, and it was in regards to Rick being there, but but yeah. So I just thought it was kind of a cutesy, fun scene. All right, Brandon, what are your amusing scenes for the week?
So to add on to that, I'm going to say, keeping with the Tracy theme, Tracy and Olivia, I thought was kind of funny, and the sense of Olivia, she's trying to have an emotional moment that's like, yeah, I used to look at Geo, and I used to hold him as a baby, and I never knew that he was my flesh and blood. I should have known. And Tracy's like, yeah, it's like, well, you aren't psychic. At least you weren't back then.
Yeah, yes. So I got to give them all those characters credit this week. All right, for heartwarming scenes, it was it was Geo and Emma since those two were together, and then Nina and Ava. I like their conversation, and then we have Jason and Michael and Sausage, which we didn't talk about, but they had a very nice scenes together. And then, of course, we have Dante and whoever Dante spoke to this week. I thought all of those were heartwarming scenes. All right, Brandon, what about you?
And we had an unexpected one from Cody and Sasha.
Oh yeah, Cody and Sasha did have a nice scene also. So it's like the writers at General Hospital did a really nice job in actually letting the fallout take place this week. And then the other scenes incorporating them in. But then on those 2 days where it really was just the Quartermain family for the most part, and Michael to me is a Quartermain, so that included in there on that other side. Um, I thought they did a nice job of just kind of incorporating those characters only. Yes, we had a couple others that were thrown in there, but for the most part, they kind of let them be themselves. Um, any other heartwarming scenes?
I think that is the gist of it. There are so many of them going around.
Yes. All right. For fast forward moment. Okay. I'm sorry. It was Kai and Trina. It just seemed out of place this week. And so, yes, it's nice. They're a couple now, but they could have done this at another time period for storyline purposes. So it was not, this scene was not needed this week. All right, Brandon, what about you for fast forwarding scenes?
100% agree. I don't I don't know that whole thing felt very out of place, especially considering the episode for and this week overall has largely been about the nurses' ball fallout from everything from the Geo situation to the Michael situation to even the Curtis Portia everything. To me, those all made sense. Kai and Trina did not, and the fact that those scenes were just so long. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it didn't need to be here for this week.
All right. And then welcome back. We're going to welcome back new Michael one more time. I will eventually just call him Michael, but for right now, he's new Michael. And I will say I like new Michael. I thought they did a great job recasting. I was surprised that he fit in so well so quickly. I like that he had a bonding scene with his kids. He has a nice bonding scene with Carly and with Jocelyn, and then the same with Jason and Sasha. And then even with Willow, they seem to they could banter with the best of them too. So I thought they did a nice job. I think they've done a nice job with the recast. We'll miss Chad, but new Michael seems to be holding his own right now. And then the other person I'd like to say, welcome back to Brooklyn's grandma. Can't remember her name, but welcome back, Brooklyn's grandma. All right, Brandon, did I miss a welcome back?
I think that hit everything, and yeah, and her name's Grandma Gloria.
Grandma Gloria. I'm so sorry, Gloria. So welcome back. All right, and then we have where is. I think Brandon, you have a bigger list than I do. But where is Molly and where is Anna? All right, Brandon. Who, although Anna's name was mentioned, who do you have a where is from?
Yeah, so this week I did something a little bit different, and so I took all of the names of the General Hospital main characters, so to speak, from the ABC website, and I marked down who was here and who was not here for each day of the week. And so overall, there were three characters who showed up in every day of this week.
All right, who is that?
So first of all, do you have any guesses before I say who the three are?
Um, Geo, Brooklyn, Dante, and
You're
Tracy.
close. So it was Geo, Brooklyn, and Sasha.
Oh, uh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so I was definitely intrigued by that. And then out of them, there were five missing people.
Okay, who are missing people?
So we have Jordan, Anna, Isaiah, Molly, and Felicia.
Yeah, good job, Brandon. Because it's amazing. We've talked about this where sometimes we don't pick up that people were missing until we look the next week and we say, "Where'd they go?" So good job of keeping up with that.
Thank you.
All right, and then for next week, I look forward to Geo established that he's going back to Port Charles, and where he's in that cabin that everyone goes to when they're in trouble. So anyway, so I guess the cabin, that key is hidden somewhere where people can find it. So he is going back to Port Charles, and I really want to see his reaction with Geo and with Dante and with Brooklyn, and then the rest of the Quartermain clan to see what they do. And so I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to New Michael and the custody battle to see where they're kind of leading there. And I think those are the two storylines I'm really looking forward to for next week. What about you, Bran?
Yeah. In terms of next week, I what do I want to see? I'm kind of intrigued to see what's going to go on the Christina side of things. I know that there's nothing per se to do with what was going on this week for all intents and purposes, but I would actually like to see somehow that intertwine with the whole Michael custody thing, because to me they have a lot of the same elements in them, and and Rick is a part of all of them, so I don't know. To me, that seems like something that might come into play. I just don't know how yet, but it seems like something that might. But I'm intrigued to see what Gio's going to end up doing for his family and who he'll sort of warm up to first. And I don't know. I think there's so many different possibilities. And then what's going to happen with Lois and Gloria? I know Tracy's aiming to kick them out of the house. So will that happen? I don't know. And yeah. Oh, and a part that we were amused with this week was Tracy realizing that she is now blood with Sonny Carimpos.
Yes, yeah. And then there was one other scene that I did want to mention that we saw in the previews, and that had to do with Lucky. Lucky says he has something to tell Elizabeth in regards to the accident, and so we'll see if Lucky confesses to anything, and if so, what is he going to confess to?
That shall be interesting.
Yep, it sure will. All right, guys, we appreciate you joining with us today. Please write in the comments. Let us know what your fallout is, your thoughts about the fallout between Geo and the rest of his family. And we look forward to speaking with you next week. So, everybody, have a great day.
And we'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye.